Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are back to the Nonary Games. The first game, 9 doors, 9 hours, 9 lives, 999. I think I said that out of order. Suppose enough time has passed for it to be worthwhile to mention that there was quite a few DS games that were kind of like this, where uh, the idea was to be serialized, short, simple games, things that would be cheap. That's probably goes all the way back to even before the Game Boy, when there were just Game and Watches or just individual LCD games that only had a playability or entertainment value of a couple of hours. So, looking at this one game, it does feel like it's going to be fairly short, although it seems like it'll be long enough, and it probably won't reveal too much considering we know that there are two sequels. So I doubt we're going to figure out who the evil Zero is, or we may get a small hint at it. If we do find out who it is, then it probably won't play a major role in the next games. As for what is happening in the story right now, Zero is about to talk to us and set up things. So apparently, the way the Nonary game is, and I don't know what Nonary means, it almost seems like, if I was to guess, Nonary would be like non-binary, but then it would be non-binary, so Nonary almost would be like an implication of, instead of having distinct splits, whether it would have been like binary, which is 0 and 1, or trinary, which would be 0, 1, and 2, things like that, Nonary would almost mean none or 9. Maybe 9. Yeah, that would actually make sense. The 9 games, because a nonagon, I think, is a 9-sided polygon. Maybe. And I wasn't that good at geometry to know the exact names of the higher shapes. But yeah, I guess that would make a lot of sense. As for the other story, we just saw the other 9 participants, unwilling participants, in this Saw-like game. And we found that one of them is our elementary school friend slash maybe slight crush, and they started with the very anime trope, reversed a little bit, where she falls down the stairs and lands on top of you, and I guess she will be the true love path, or she will be the woman in the fridge that gets put in danger. Since there is a connection between these two characters, the character you're playing as, Junpei, and your elementary school crush, which I've slept since the last recording, so I don't even remember her name. They'll point it out in a second. She would then be potentially a person who may have been a central point around all of this, or she may be the person who is actually enacting all of this, so she might be Zero. But the bigger twist, I guess you could have, is that the character you're playing as is Zero, but that would be hard to have that dissonance where the character you're playing as turns out to be evil, and yet the player doesn't know that, so they're trying to actually escape their own puzzles. So let's go through the text. I'm going to mostly try and read a lot of this, but some of this is going to be skipped too. Welcome aboard. So, thank goodness for subtitles there, because that audio quality is pretty muffled. He seems to be talking through a voice box, voice changer, and through the mask at the same time, which is not a decent audio design. I imagine the Nintendo DS had limited amounts of memory for audio, but I imagine its hardware to play audio would have been better than that sound effect for sure. Now, when you consider this and compare this to Jigsaw in the Saw movies, that actor and his voice that sounds like he actually does have lung cancer became very iconic. And so you definitely would have done better to have a very iconic voice that was very recognizable, in the same way that Joker kind of has his iconic Joker laugh that you would recognize from like the Batman animated series, even though the Joker in live action movies has not really ever used that laugh, or even the Batman 66 live action series Joker had kind of an iconic Joker laugh, which would make their voices very recognizable. You would easily be able to play the Joker's laugh as a sound effect, and people would very quickly recognize that that was the Joker's laugh. If you hear this, you're just going to assume that you're hearing garbled audio.
What?
Junpei says, what? And the eyes are open. Is he standing up at this point, or is he still on the ground with his elementary friend, now grown up, on top of her?
What's that voice?
Akane is her name. I guess they stood up. I don't know if it really is necessary to put 0 in brackets like that, as if it was something that you could click on. In the Steam version using a controller, I don't see a way that I could actually click on that and link to a file that would reference 0. I don't know what the Japanese word for 0 is either. If it is just pronounced somewhat like 0, because I only can count pretty much up to 5, and then I don't think I pronounce 6 or 7 right, or 5. I can count to 3 for sure. Ich ni san, and then she, and then I think 5 is something like ro, RHOU, or something RYHOU, and that's as far as I've ever been able to memorize. And trying to learn a second language is probably not going to be my forte. The idea that he is 0 makes sense in that each of these characters have numbers too, which is a dehumanizing element. It's nice to play a game that's kind of linear and straightforward. I've been playing a lot of puzzle games that have forced me to use a lot of walkthroughs. Made me it makes me feel kind of dumb after 4 or 5 games where the puzzles just have a ton of moon logic in them, and they're just impossible to solve without help.
Hey, asshole! What the hell is this? Come on out here. I want to get a look at you.
See, and when translating from Japanese, let's see, there's only 2 insult words where English has a lot. So the a-hole, for instance, he probably said something like baka, which is just idiot when said softly, but if you say it like roughly, then it takes on more of an emphasis. So like almost all of the insult words that are being used here, I imagine, are just baka, and it's just about how he says it. And this is a localization issue that sometimes localization is done to improve a game, sometimes it feels a little bit more like editorialization or censorship. In this case, if they literally translated the word baka every single time an insult was said to another person, it would just be, hey, idiot. And it wouldn't even make sense in this case. So the localization is right in this, in my opinion, in this case, because it makes more sense to call him an insulting or word that is more attributable to somebody who would kidnap people instead of just calling them an idiot, when we've seen that Zero is probably not an idiot considering he's made all these puzzles and kidnapped all these people. And this guy, Silver, is definitely ready for a fight, so we're getting personality traits of each of these characters to see who's going to be the aggressive one, who's going to be the violent one, a slight difference in that. And we saw the Mountain was strong and willing to be violent with it. We saw that the Dancer Lady seems to be an assertive leadership type personality. We saw one guy that seemed a little crazy. And then we saw some other characters that we haven't seen in their dialogue or their actions so far what they're supposed to be, but in their actual character designs, which are stereotypical to their personality designs, it looks like it's pretty easy to figure out that the Prince character probably is going to act princely, and the pink-haired girl is probably going to act a little childish, and so on and so on.
What do you mean to do to us?
Now this guy looks like an anime detective guy, so Lion is probably going to be the inquisitive detective person who's going to try and find out solutions and figure out what's going on. Of course, you would have to have watched enough anime to realize that that's how they depict detective guys usually. And you have to overlook like the most famous detective in Japanese anime, Detective Conan, which is a kid show about a kid detective. So some of these people either know the game or have played it before. Good to know. We're moving very, very slow, I know. But that's pretty much all this game will be, is lines of dialogue and then escape to room puzzles. Now, if we are going to have to replay sections, at a certain point we'll go into the menu and we'll speed up the text and we'll have it auto skip things, because a lot of this is not telling us anything of importance. There's no little side sentences that would be hiding bits of information or even giving a bit of a hint. And I would say that in the Saw movies, they do tend to do a really great job with the audio tapes in that case, because the audio tapes in most of the Saw movies are added later in the dialogue, so they can write entire backstories about why Jigsaw kidnapped a specific person, why that specific person has some kind of moral failing according to Jigsaw and they deserve to be in this death trap, and it often gives a small hint on what they have to do to get out of the death trap, which allows the writers to add a lot of backstory and a lot of writing and a lot of just telling instead of showing, which in movies you generally would want to show, not tell, but I'd rather be told over not being told than just having no story at all. I think this might be the first instance in which a sentence continues in the same box when you press forward. It felt like all the other lines of dialogue would always get a new box, even if they were extremely short sentences.
Nonary Game.
What the hell's that?
So I guess that implies at least these two characters don't know what it is, and we assume that we don't know what it is, so that eliminates 3 of the 9 people as potentially having some beforehand knowledge. Yeah, Mountain is also all scarred up, so he's probably used to being in fights. Like, you don't have that many cuts in that pattern unless you just ran through a plate glass window. That looks like he's maybe a gangster that's been in a lot of knife fights. Hmm. Well, that would be funny if they all have like rules tattooed on their backs or something.
What is he talking about?
There's a lot of noise and static playing right now, just trying to simulate that he's talking over the radio, but it's not. It's very consistent, very repetitive, and I don't like it. You also have from this position the dancer lady, like she doesn't seem particularly comfortable at the moment to be showing off so much of her skin. Like you don't cross your hands like that if you're not trying to cover up something.
Hey, there's something in my pocket. Check this out.
So all these people must have just woken up if they didn't even check their pockets. And it seems like I was the only one that actually had to escape a room. Oh.
Hey, I got one too.
So do we read this now, or is it going to read it all to us? Let's just quickly go over it. It says, we will call them numbered doors. In the doors in front of you is a pair. You are a pair of the same. The key to opening the numbered doors are the numbered bracelets that each of you possess. Should you total the numbers of your numbered bracelets and find the digital root of the number equal to the number of that door, the door will open. Only those who have opened the door may pass through. There are, however, limits. Only 3 to 5 people can pass through a numbered door. All of those who enter must leave. All those who enter must contribute. The purpose of the game is simple. Leave the ship alive. It is hidden, but an exit can be found. Seek a way out. Seek a door that carries a 9. So, well, there's no way you could get a digital root. This concept that seems to be like it's going to be really overplayed, of 9. You can't get a digital root of 9 and get a digital root of a different number. Unless you bring the right combination of 5 people, or maybe 4, through. Yeah, I think the general idea would be you would go with 5 people to go through one door, and in the first round, and then somebody will die, and then there will only be 4 people, and then those 4 people's digital route will be kind of force you down a different path. Then somebody will die, and then there'll be only 3 people, and when there's only 3 people, their digital route would equal 9. Which, I guess if you were to try to run the math right now, you probably could, if you had like number 1, number 2, and number 6, that would be a digital root of 9. Then there's no telling what number you would add for the fourth person, or no telling what you would add for the 5th person, because this is kind of like recursive knowledge that you'd have to be able to know what's going to happen and know what people are actually going to be put in risk and potentially die, unless you are literally going to be given the choice of killing any of the people or eliminating in some way any of the other people.
Then it would seem Zero has seen fit to grace us each with a letter. Would you mind terribly reading it to us, young man?
On this ship, you will find a handful of doors emblazoned with numbers.
So they are going to just read it all out
Call
loud?
them the numbered doors. The doors in front of you are a pair of the same. The key to opening these numbered doors are the numbered bracelets that each of you possess. Should you total the numbers on your numbered bracelets, find that the digital root of that number is equal to the number of that door, the door will open. Only those who have opened the door may pass through. There are, however, limits. Only 3 to 5 people can pass through one numbered door. All those who enter must leave, and all who enter must contribute. So this thing on my arm is a bracelet.
I don't know why you translate that to bracelet. It looks more like a watch, or you would call it a digital key, or something. Access bracelet. Maybe make it more technical accurate.
The purpose of the game is
one kind of assumes that the calculator function and all of that stuff in the game are being done through the bracelet. You'd call it a smartwatch now, but I guess smartwatches weren't a big thing even in Japan back when this game first came out.
Leave this ship alive.
So it looks like the entire lower deck is now just flooded.
It is hidden, but an exit can be found.
Each one of these background scenes would have taken somebody a few hours to a day to draw. You'd have to have somebody draw it, paint it, fill it in, color it, get to fine details.
Seek a way out.
So they're going to try and use a lot of these to give the feeling of a real 3D area. It'd be funny if the ship was like on a giant crane or lift and he just is faking that it's sinking, and this is some weird like amusement park ride that he's using. Because it's really, really silly to sink a ship just to do this. But again, who knows? This could all be broadcasting to billionaires, and sinking a ship may be totally within the budget. Yeah. So, Titanic reference. I don't know if that's going to play any role. If this is the only fact or bit of information that we've seen at all, and it seems kind of relevant and kind of irrelevant, unless you're supposed to take the digital route of April 14th, 1912, which then if you took all those numbers and added them up, you'd have 10 plus 13, 17, 18, which would then equal 9. But then if you take April and convert it to the month, which would be the 4th month, January, February, March, April, then that would be 13 and that would be 4. So since 9 wouldn't be a solution, maybe 4 is a hint here that we should try to do door 4. There is also a thought, since you can only take 5 people, that means ideally you would want to leave the 4 people left to have a chance to get to the 9th, to a 9 door, and maybe there are 2 doors with the number 9 on it. I'm not sure if that's guaranteed or not. We have seen 2 doors with the number 5 on it, so that would kind of make sense that there would be multiple doors. Again, 2 hours and 40 minutes gives you 6. So if the answer is choose door 4, then choose door 6. But it could also be that those aren't hints at all, and this is just a reference. How he's controlling it, the sinking, to the point where he knows for certain it will take 9 hours, I don't know. And finally the sound effect changes.
I think it's coming from over by the stairs.
So there's like a clock.
It's the clock telling us the time.
Sounds like your grandfather clock looks like a
Ring
wall
9
clock.
times, so 9 o'clock then?
So if it rings 9 times and it's 9 o'clock, you would have had to wire the clock to go backwards, which you can do it, but there's not a lot of options on that.
I think it's 9 p.m.
Why not start at noon and say you have until 9?
I couldn't see anything when I tried looking out the window earlier. It has to be nighttime.
If that is the case, then we would need to escape by 6 a.m. tomorrow.
Okay. Seems like that is right. And then they're throwing out another number, so... Now, the thing... That was like 30 minutes just to take this real slow.
Hey, you bastard! What do you mean by that? Come out here, you asshole!
Yep, again, he's probably just saying baka at the same time. Unless there are some other cuss words I'm not familiar with in Japanese language. This would be great to switch over to the Japanese language while getting the English subtitles, because then you could compare the words being said versus the words being written and localized. Not a great system to learn Japanese by any means, but it'd be a nice little comparison. And I do think that is an option. But I won't mess with it now. We'll mess with that after the first playthrough.
And the others.
It'd be funny if you're still laying on the ground and the girl is still on top of you. Is the mountain just gonna make a sound? Yep. They're all just gonna make a sound. Iconic. Just bad script writing here. You literally don't need to write all of that multiple times. And man, just look at the difference in character designs here. Clearly the artist likes the big forehead look, which was a small fetish for artists in Japan. And the elongated face with the sharp chin look of the faces, with the slight head tilt in the same direction, which seems a little weird. But man, just look at the fashion and the costuming here. Here you have the dancer on the left, barely covered at all, and then you have Akane being the pure, innocent love, covered almost completely head to neck to toe. And I guess we won't get to see any other pictures of any of the characters' legs, because I imagine most shots now will be fairly zoomed in.
Way too many questions. Who is Zero?
So now we're thinking.
What's the Nonary Game? What's it for? Is he some nut job just doing this to mess with us, or does he have some other purpose?
So the problem here is, if you're gonna have 4 guys and you want to give them any kind of chance, they need to end up being able to lose one character, one very specific character, and then have a digital root of 9. And then the other 5 guys would have more options. But there is a possibility that you can't have both groups have a chance. And I imagine most players of this game, particularly, this feels like one of these games that might be purchased for kids that are a little too young to be playing a game with this kind of story, even though the puzzles seem to be more in line with a teenager or pre-teenager's level of puzzle solving ability, at least the one puzzle we've seen so far.
The others. Why are these 8 people here?
8 people? He means the other 8 people.
And the most confusing of them all. Why is Akane here? I haven't seen her since elementary school.
Yeah.
Why her? Why now?
Suppose it is worth mentioning that in Japan, you tend to grow up in the same neighborhood and not move around a lot until you kind of go to high school, or maybe if you're a really good student, you go to a prestigious junior high school that will prepare you for high school. High schools are kind of like colleges in the United States and in the West, so there's a lot of cramming in junior high, a lot of studying, a lot of competition to get into high school, and once they're in high school, there's so much prestige in being in that high school that that they kind of are allowed to relax, at least on the Japanese scale, a lot more, and have what often is felt to be the best time of a Japanese person's life, because they're kind of in college and they don't have any stress put on them when they're in high school, and they can just kind of enjoy their lives for a brief moment until they then graduate from high school and either go on to further education in college, or they go into the workplace, both of which are then incredibly restrictive, and there is just like no individuality or freedom or fun in life for the rest of their lives. It's not a good system. Not that the West has a better system either. You have fun in the West in college while learning a few things, and then you get in a job and work that until you die, or until you can afford to retire.
Coincidence? No. There's no way. There has to be a reason.
See, this really just boils down all the people to numbers, though.
I don't know what exactly, but there has to be.
Very well. Standing around here won't do us any good. Best we get moving, don't you think?
I kind of wish, though, that this next decision would be taken out of my hands somewhat.
Get moving?
If they leave me with 9 numbers, I'm going to have to do a lot of math. But if 3 or 4 people decide to go on their own,
The numbered doors?
then that solves it a lot easier. Particularly if it's just, should Akane stay with me or go with the other team? Like, we could figure out what Akane's number is, and decide by that math which one. And probably it would be, she shouldn't stay with me.
Hey, wait!
But we have this problem at the moment. There's no chart or explanation as far as who is what number.
But don't tell me you're actually gonna do what this zero says.
I think you probably need to play along with your captor in most kidnapping situations, as much as it seems reasonable or in your best interest. And in this case, it probably is in your best interest to not just sit around and drown.
No, that's not what I mean.
Slight animation there, but boy, do these animations kind of just pop up and then disappear. Makes the game feel like it kind of ran out of budget for animation, and it was certainly ambitious to have any animations in the first place. Most visual novels would have very little movement or no movement at all.
I'm saying let's find another way. After all, we haven't really examined this place yet.
We... what?
Where have we not looked? Everyone searched A-Deck already, right?
Yeah, we were kind of in a rush though, so we probably missed some things.
Why don't we check out the lower floors first? We should see how deep this place goes.
So maybe we won't even choose the doors for a while.
I can work with that.
Then let's go.
So the group is running into 2 little red flags here in the story, I'd say. One, the lion character is being deferred to as, which is very Japanese, that the oldest person, the most senior person would be deferred to, and so his ideas are being given slightly more weight, and also he's a leader has stepped up. Most horror movies, you will see some leader steps up and then it doesn't work out for the best because of that, because everybody wants to be in charge, and usually the quiet contemplative person is not willing to step forward, and the smartest person in the room is probably not the person that wants to be in charge the loudest. They are also deciding to stall and not play the game, which in any jigsaw trap would guarantee your death, certainly. So they're losing precious time when they were just told that they have 9 hours. They're deciding to stay together as a group, which staying together as a group is usually a good idea if you're lost in a forest, but if you're in a horrific death trap game, you probably need to split up and search, or at least break into smaller groups in general. Hopefully it doesn't get down to like a survivor situation where one group decides to attack the other group. They are doing a good job, at least so far, of not freaking out too much. So, is this...
Whoa!
This whole thing is flooded. So I don't think they meant to show this background scene until this point.
What the hell? It's completely submerged.
Damn.
Hmm.
If the water level keeps rising like this, we're all gonna drown.
Yeah.
No, I don't believe that's something we have to worry about.
Now they're gonna start arguing with each other.
See? The water's not flowing. That means the origin of the water has been stopped.
So apparently he let the entire deck flood on purpose. Again, making it feel more like a Disney ride than an actual sinking ship. I don't know if you would be able to tell if the water is flowing if there's a small leak that is just making an undercurrent or just filling up a very large area.
Perhaps this Zero fellow has used some sort of remote control to seal a watertight door lower down.
I don't think ships have too many remote controlled doors.
He said that our time limit was 9 hours.
Prince is making a logical deduction here.
In other words, this water won't rise for 9 hours.
It's a logical deduction that wraps around the assumption that Zero is truthful and in complete control and capable.
You're saying we won't sink till then.
Like, so...
Well, that may be a little too optimistic. No point to wishful thinking.
Like, how you could stop something from flooding and then say, in exactly 9 hours, I'll make sure the entire ship floods again, I don't know, without perhaps, like, more windows that you could remotely break.
That's depressing.
If we don't determine a way to advance from this point, we are stuck on A deck and C deck.
What happened to B deck?
Looks that way.
Hey, hold on. How about we check C deck before we jump to any conclusions? We might find something there.
You're right.
So there's a lot of dialogue happening here just to kind of establish the
We should look at the
situation.
metal doors by the big staircase too. They're pretty suspicious.
So we're now seeing what is the same background with just non-metal doors, and one assumes that all of these will be locked because then the puzzle area would kind of not make sense. You could see how you would expand a game like this if you wanted to take it away from being a escape the room visual novel hybrid. You could recreate this boat in something like Unity or Unreal. You can have lots of doors that just don't open, and you could have people having to wander around and find the doors that do open. You could have some secrets or collectibles behind doors in certain areas.
No numbers on either door. And I don't see an authentication device either.
She just created a new key phrase, authentication device.
Nope. It's locked.
This one too. Damn, none of the doors are opening.
Hey guys, over here. There's another door behind the stairs.
Now, it'd be funny if there was 2 or 3 other teams on the ship at the same time, and they were just in sections that would never cross paths with this group. But then the 9 hours and the sinking ship repercussion would have to be synchronized across all those teams. And then it would be like, instead of 9 players and potentially 9 different endings, it would become 18 or 21, 27 people, and then 27 endings, which is probably not too many endings. Like, I think some visual novels definitely have little spin-off side endings that that are easy to get and easy to miss without really being upset that you missed them. In a funny way, Nier Automata, like one of the best Japanese games to be made in the past decade, has multiple endings like a visual novel, and yet it is a high action sci-fi game with running, jumping, and shooting going on. So the idea of multiple endings could easily be translated to other games, and we sometimes see it in standard games where you have a good ending or a bad ending, but that's typically all you get in a Western style game. But then also it comes down to a matter of, do you want to try and make your game replayable, because they'd have to spend 30 hours playing the game to make a decision at the last 5 seconds to get a different ending, or do you want to make a game that is just fun so people will want to play it for another 30 hours? Borderlands 1, for instance, does not have multiple endings, but it totally is a fun experience, so it's totally worth playing a second time or a third time. Portal, the Portal series, very linear stories, don't have multiple endings, totally worth playing a second time.
This one doesn't open either.
This one seems to have a lock under it.
We'll see about that. Hey, old man, give me a hand.
Using force, I see. Let's give it a try.
So Lion is willing for both of them to potentially break their heads.
It won't budge.
I imagine any actual door in a ship probably is supposed to be like a watertight door, so it'd be fairly metal and fairly solid. So building a death trap on a ship does make a lot of sense.
Not just start shouting out of nowhere. You almost gave me a heart attack, you know.
Oh, sorry.
It doesn't appear to have moved even with 2 of us trying. It's very well made.
So
Idiots. Try using your brain first.
So it seems like Dancer will be the more intellectual character. And if all 9 of them could even attack a door at the same time, I imagine the door still wouldn't open.
Take a closer look.
A keyhole.
Right. It's obvious what we need to open this door.
A key, huh?
You got a problem?
No, I just really doubt we'll find a key that easily.
Yeah. Negativity, another red flag in any of these situations. You should just be stupidly optimistic, and just be like, we're gonna get out of here, we're all gonna survive, everything's gonna go great. Even if you don't believe it yourself, you should just lie, and everybody in the group should just lie and just be overly positive.
Work on it.
Freaking out
Does it mean something?
or being pessimistic doesn't help the situation at all.
Hey, look! Over here, too!
So you have like a hexagon stop sign shape at the top with a circle and a dot.
More doors.
I think they're elevators.
So the elevators might take you to different floors.
There's an inverted triangle button by them.
May as well try pressing it. Huh. Nothing.
Maybe the power isn't on.
Or we need to do something with this card reader.
So we've got card readers, we've got scanners.
There's a strange mark here too.
I think that's the alchemical symbol for Jupiter, but don't quote me on that.
What's this? It looks like a lowercase h with a dash drawn across the upper stem of the H.
Jupiter slash some
This is the symbol of Saturn.
Saturn, sorry.
It's an astrological symbol.
Then the mark on the upper door.
Astrological alchemical symbols, they're kind of the same.
I think that was the sun symbol. We saw the same symbols on A deck.
So maybe we're supposed to recreate the solar system.
I don't remember that.
A deck, huh?
I wonder if everybody's still a little fuzzy in the head from the drugs, which again would make this game not that fair.
We may as well check again since we're talking about it.
It's a lot of text here. All I've been doing for nearly an hour now is just pressing A.
The one on the left had a keyhole with a similar symbol engraved on it.
She's right. It looks similar to what we saw downstairs.
This is an Earth symbol. The horizontal line symbolizes the equator, and the vertical one represents the prime meridian.
So Akane is some sort of expert in astrological things.
I see. The ceiling. Metal plates. Huh. It's as if it's covering something up.
Perhaps it was a dome of some kind.
I wish we could get out through there.
Be realistic. We'd need a lot of explosives to open that up.
The windows too. Huh. They're all covered.
So they're really trying hard to make sure you can't see outside, perhaps
In other
because it
words,
would be a solution to this puzzle.
we're trapped. All the exits go nowhere.
I wonder if this is designed, the ship is designed to be sinkable, then unsinkable, then resinkable. You would think there would have to be a decent amount of water damage improvement or correction restoration that would go on if you were going to unsink the ship, all the sofas, all the fabric, all the things like that, the baseboards, the walls probably
Well, I'm sure
would
they go
get water
somewhere.
damage
We
immediately.
just can't open them.
You don't know that. For all we know, they just open into walls or take us in circles.
I don't know if you really need 9 character archetypes for a puzzle game like this.
I'm sure they go somewhere.
You probably,
Otherwise, what point would there be?
when you look at like the first Saw movie, there's kind of only 4, maybe 5 characters, maybe 6 or 7 in the entire movie. There's 2 main characters, and those are the 2 main characters that are talking with each other and trying to find solutions to the puzzle, and
we
that
can
works
open them.
fairly well.
2 of them at least.
Although the Saw movie is a movie that can be linear and scripted, where a video game has to be a little bit more interactive and open-ended.
Oh, you
And I
mean the
suppose
numbered
it's
doors.
pretty obvious at this point that me covering a visual novel type game is going to be me talking quite a lot about what's been going
Wait a
on.
minute.
There's going to be a lot of commentary in these types of games, where if I was just playing a first-person shooter that was just boring running and gunning, after 2 or 3 hours of boring running and gunning, just repetitive grinding, there's not a lot to say at that point. So in a
I think we
funny
said
way,
this earlier.
you're
I
actually
don't think we
getting
should do that.
more things of note in a game like this than you would in a more traditional, like, military first-person shooter game.
We'd have to be crazy to open these doors. If we do that, we're doing exactly what Zero wants us to do.
May as well give it a shot. Can't stay here forever.
See, so it's just taking them a really long time
Favor as well.
to decide to use the numbered doors. I think it would have been better if the lion had said, let's look around, but if we can't find anything that we look around, then we have to play along at the beginning so that we
No,
don't have
I'm
this
totally against this.
argument that is going to now pop up.
But shouldn't we at least try?
See, and the problem here is Dancer is probably one of the most intellectually thoughtful person in the group. So if she's going to be totally against it and she won't come along, then she gets left in the secondary group, which might not be a big problem. But if she refuses to go through any of the doors, then she gets left behind and we lose her number immediately, which would be easy.
We should stay here.
Yeah, she's making an argument to just stay in one place, which is not a great idea. Nobody has made the suggestion of let's have somebody jump in the water and swim in the water and see how far we can get, if there's any possibility that there might be some exit under the sunken place.
We don't have time for
Of course, you can only...
8.5 hours, this ship is going to sink.
Wow, it's been 30 minutes of them just talking too. It's almost like this is playing in real time.
Hey, shut up!
You could only swim so far though before most people could. So yeah, they could probably only get a few directions, a few doors down before they'd run out of oxygen.
Before we try and decide where we're going to go, there's something else we ought to do.
Yeah, they should introduce themselves and see if they have anything in common, and if there are any clues as to why each of these people are in the game.
What's that?
We need to exchange information.
Yep, and that's a very Japanese thing, is to exchange business cards, introduce yourself on your first day as a transfer student at school, if you are a transfer student. Very anime thing to do.
We don't know anything about each other. I want to know who you guys are. Who you are, where you came from, why you ended up here.
This is good for getting information that might help you escape. It's also good just to have a list of names and where they live, so that you could inform the police and the authorities if you're the only survivor. It's like, I got all their names. These were all the victims. So at least then, if the 8 other people did die, their families aren't going to just wonder if they just ran away or is still alive somewhere.
Don't tell me you aren't curious too.
I agree. I think Jumpy is right.
She just let go some major information that she probably shouldn't. She's putting herself in danger now, because it seems like she's putting yourself, the player, and herself in danger, because now it looks like these two know each other and are working together.
Jumpy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm talking about him. I just call him Jumpy. His name is Junpei. We're childhood friends. We went to the same elementary school.
Wait, stop. Don't tell us stuff we didn't ask you about.
He's probably somewhat smart about that.
He's probably watching us right now. What are you gonna do if he's listening in?
Oh, would that be bad?
Akane seems to be very innocent, very ignorant character type.
Hell yeah, it would. We don't know how much that bastard knows about us.
Well, if this was a death trap to get information about people, if like one of these guys, one of the 9 people did something horrible and he's not, and Zero doesn't know which of the 9 people did something horrible, and he's willing to risk the lives of 8 innocent people to figure out who the culprit is, there's an idea there, but I think that's a risk you're just going to have to take, because you're going to constantly be in this conflict of, does Zero know everything about all of these characters, and does he know some thread line that connects them all together, and if we as the players figure that out, we'll be at advantage, or does Zero not know a full thread line about these characters and is just determined somehow that these are the 8 or the 9 prime suspects in some kind of crime or offense that Zero is offended by, and thus he's trying to figure out who the culprit is. Honestly, if it is the latter and Zero actually is just trying to find the culprit out, the players if they expose who the culprit is themselves, probably then would solve Zero's goal. So if Zero's goal was just to find the culprit, and the culprit got exposed in the first 5 minutes, then I guess Zero would go, well, this is awkward. I now know who the person is, so I don't need the rest of you. So then it's a 50-50 shot whether he decides to kill all the other witnesses or let them go, depending on whether Zero feels like being benevolent or evil.
Maybe he just picked a bunch of random people to kidnap him. If that is the case, then it'd be dangerous for us to let him know too much.
I don't follow that line of logic. Zero getting a bunch of random bits of information about people is not going to put you in any more danger, as you've already been kidnapped and put in a jigsaw puzzle. Death trap.
Zero knows who we are. He could go after our families.
I guess that's the case. Yeah, but Zero seems to be going after random people in that thought anyways. So there's a random chance that he would go after your family and not even know they're related to you. I guess the fact that some of these characters show up in the next games does imply that there is some targeting of who Zero kidnaps. So there might be some logic to this. But I don't think, even if something is logical, I don't think you have always the option to do the most logical thing, particularly when you're in a death trap that has 9 hours, 8.5 hours now to be solved.
Maybe he'd tell us he had them to get us to do stuff, you know?
That is true. That's a good argument.
But we still need to know what our names are. It's going to be hard to talk to each other if we don't have names.
Alright, then why don't we have code names?
Okay.
Code names?
Yeah, we'll each pick something. Like, I'll be 7.
7? Why are you 7?
Because this bracelet number says 7.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, that's a good idea.
So they're going to switch the names of all the characters to their numbers, which will be very helpful.
All right, I'm gonna be Santa. Any of you chumps know Japanese? No? Well, San means 3. So, I'll be Santa. You know, like Santa Claus. Fits, don't you think?
Then your bracelet number.
So
Yeah,
this is a
it's got 3 on
roundabout.
it. Good job, Grandpa.
This is a roundabout way to figure out people's numbers.
Very well then. I'll go
Now
ahead.
remember, when we first saw these characters, a lot of them had sleeves, so we didn't know if they were wearing bracelets at all. And it's been an hour since they finally started to show that everybody does have a bracelet and tell us what number it is. And I don't think we've seen any characters showing off that they do have a bracelet in any of the other animations, but maybe they did and I just wasn't paying attention.
My bracelet number is 1.
So each.
Given that, I think Ace seems appropriate.
I'll be Lotus then. As I'm sure you all know, it has 8 petals.
So
Which means, of course, that my bracelet number is 8.
I'm hoping this would change their names and then put in parentheses their numbers.
I would appreciate it if you would call me Snake.
Really?
My bracelet number is 2.
Like, Snake, not a good choice in this situation.
Since Ace has chosen cards, then I choose dice. Snake eyes, clearly. Which is particularly relevant given that I am blind.
Wait, you're blind?
You can't see?
Really? You've been wandering around for an hour. Like, you'd think you'd say that first and foremost.
I knew it.
Me next.
I didn't know it. His eyes are closed in every picture we've seen of him, but that doesn't really mean much. Because, well, I guess perhaps when you look at like pink hair and how her eyes are blinking right now, it does become fairly obvious now his eyes are closed the whole time. Of course, blind people don't just keep their eyes closed all the time. Unless they've Yeah, you usually don't keep your eyes closed the whole time. That would lead to drying out of the eyes, and that would be, even if they don't work, you still don't want to further damage your eyeballs.
I want to be Clover.
So she's 4.
You know, like a 4-leaf clover. Good luck, right?
You would kind of assume then, instead of her having pink hair, she should have green hair.
Alright, my number's 5.
So call me Pentagon.
So my code name is gonna be...
Why have one? It's not like there's any point to it now. I mean, we all know your name already. You're Junpei.
Oh, yeah.
Then you should all call me by my name too, because, I mean, it doesn't seem...
So we get our own names, the 2 important characters. Everybody else gets code names.
It doesn't seem fair to Jumpy.
You're thinking it's not cool for you to hide your name after you told us his.
What's your bracelet number?
It's 6.
So yeah, call her. Akane is her real name. Call her Dice. There are like 6 pips on a dice, so that's about all I could think. Or you could call her an insect. A lot of insects have 6 legs.
Alright then, why don't we call you June?
June, I guess, is the 6th month.
June?
Yeah, you know, it's the 6th month of the year.
So his name is Junpei, her name is June.
So you're June.
Jumpy?
Are you good with that?
Yeah.
Okay then. So this is how everyone breaks down. 1 is Ace. 2 is Snake. 3 is Santa. 4 is Clover.
Hopefully they are keeping a file here of this.
5 is me. 6 is June. 7 is 7.
And Akane / June now, clearly very timid and allowing herself to be named by someone else, which again, very Japanese. Just going along with the flow.
That means 8 of us have revealed our bracelet numbers.
But there's a 9th character, the crazy guy.
The only one left is...
That glasses guy with hair like a bird's nest.
You haven't said a thing so far, have you?
So maybe this is the guy who's played the game before and he's crazy because of it.
What number are you? Hey, I'm talking to you.
Isn't it obvious? There are 9 people here. And you know who numbers 1 through 8 are. I'm the only one left.
So you're 9?
Yeah.
Which means he's dead. Like, the way I'm seeing these puzzles play, there's no way you get 9 as a digital number without him being left to his own. But the rules also said it was a minimum of 3 people to go through a door. So the only way this would work is if he went with 2 other people, guaranteeing that those 2 other people were dead by the time they hit the 9th door. Now, maybe the assumption that the door wouldn't open multiple times is wrong. So it could be that he went through the 9 door by himself. Then a 4, a 3, and a... What was I gonna say there? No. Be 4 and 2. Yeah. Then it would... No, because then it wouldn't work that way either. I was thinking, if he went, and then he went through the 9 door by himself, and then a 5 and a 4 went, and their combined numbers went by themselves, then that would be 9, 4, and 5. And then if a group of 3 would get a digital root of 9, that would be 3 more people. That would be 6 out of 9. So then if the next group of 3 numbers could also go through the 9 door as a group of 3, if the door would just open multiple times, then everybody could survive. But that would require 7 people to start off with, and you can only have 5 people. So yeah, he's probably dead.
What's your code name?
Code name?
Also, this guy just seems like a lunatic, frankly, so I don't think he's going to play a big role here. I think he's pretty well dead.
What do you want us to call you?
The way their
We all made up
fists are
names.
drawn
You
are
should
a
too.
little rough. Drawing hands in tight shots, not done a lot in animation, so it's kind of obvious that they needed a better artist to draw that.
I don't need one.
Why not?
Because I am not gonna stay here with you.
You've got some sort of plan?
I do.
Yeah? What's that?
You sure you want to know?
Yeah.
All right, let me show you. I'm gonna do this.
Is he just gonna kill himself somehow, running into a wall? Did he just punch Clover or kidnap her?
Hey! What the hell do you think you're doing?
Stay back.
Alright. Well, we needed some action about 30 minutes ago.
If you get any closer.
Okay. So, she... Man, I wish I could... Can we go to the file here? Let's see. Let's just mark all of these as red while we're here. She was called Clover. Right. So that makes her 4. That makes 13. That means he's going through the 4th door with her. But he needs another person. So does he take Ace with him and go through the 5th door?
I'll cut her open.
He needs somebody else to open the door with him.
Yeah, that's right. Clover, are you all right?
So they're at 13. Whatever number he forces to go with him eliminates those 3 people. And this is where, if there was a what does this look like in this case? Novel screen versus adventure screen. I prefer the adventure screen. And I guess since this was a DS game, this menu probably on the bottom, and this novel screen was probably playing on the bottom with maybe a different background. Yeah, I'm a little surprised Clover ended up in danger first, but not super surprised there. So this actually will help the puzzle quite a bit if this happens the way I think it's going to happen. One way or the other, if he gets eliminated, it then tells us there is no solution to save everybody, unless there is a time rewind feature where there is a solution to save everybody. But I don't know if there really actually will be any time travel in this game, or if you'll just be able to rewind the game.
What the hell are you trying to do?
I told you, this is my plan.
What are you gonna do to her, you sick son of a bitch?
Don't worry. I'm not gonna do anything to her. If she just does what I tell her to.
Either I pressed A and skipped the part where he said I'll let it go, or they didn't read that line aloud.
Slowly. That's right. Just follow me. Here. Verify.
So
Look on your left. Do you see the device on the wall?
He does know how this works.
Place your hand on the scanner panel, the round part.
Which almost makes it seem like he survived the puzzle before, which then makes it feel like he is unfairly being put right back into the same death trap over and over again. So maybe nobody escapes, or he didn't escape before. He got like halfway through one of these games and then became trapped, and Zero is giving him a second chance.
What if I don't?
Are you an idiot? What do you think?
I guess if you don't, he stabs you and then puts your dead hand on it.
I could slit your throat right now.
He's oddly holding the knife the wrong direction. It's kind of pointing away from him, so you could still easily puncture her throat, but a slicing motion with the back of a knife is weird. It's animated the wrong way.
I'll kill you if I have to. All I need is your bracelet. Just do it. Do it now.
And see, his solution does have some simplicity to it. Just killing a bunch of people to get their bracelets.
Okay, I'll do it. Like this?
By him forcing her to use the mechanics of the doors, that does move the story along, but it also kind of implies that the number 9 bracelet won't work the same way as the others will. And I would have assumed that you would have put your hand on the scanner. I would have thought that you would have put the face of the bracelet on the scanner.
We call that round part of the device the scanner panel. If we put our left hand on it, our bracelet number gets entered into the device.
And I guess there's a way that that could work. Certainly you can send a low voltage signal through the skin, or a capacitive difference signal through the skin.
Should you total the numbers on your numbered bracelets and find that the digital root of that number is equal to the number of that door, the door will open.
So she just put a 4 on there. He needs, if he's going to add his number, that gets to 13, which makes 4. So he's going to have to take Ace with him too, or he's not going to have use his own number at all.
But why does this guy know so much about how this thing works? It's like he knows exactly what to do.
Good. Good. You're done. Next. You, right? You're the one with the number 1 bracelet, right?
Yes, I am. So?
Then you're next. Just verify your number like this little brat did. What are you doing? Don't you care what happens to her?
I'm trying to skip through this
Okay.
fairly
Just
fast.
calm down. I'm coming over.
It's a tense scene that when you have this pause of being able to take any amount of time between each line of dialogue, it messes with the pacing of the scene. So
Now,
ideally on a second playthrough you would want to have the text just auto scroll. And in this game, since most of the dialogue is spoken aloud, auto scrolling wouldn't be a big issue.
All right, this is what you wanted, right?
So now he's gonna,
This is both Clover and Ace's numbers, 4 and 1.
so you couldn't add another 4. You couldn't have Clover touch it a second time, for instance, to get to 5. Well, no, it's 5 now, so you can't add a 10. Yeah, there's no other way to get the digital root to equal 5 other than adding the 9.
4 plus 1 is 5. It's the same as the number written on the door.
So unless he wants to just find out, unless he thinks this will open the door to just 2 people.
But it won't open yet. Only 3 to 5 people can pass through one numbered door. what Zero said is true. He needs one more person.
Now, there might be a problem here in which number 9 runs through the door and the other two choose not to run through the door, and then the other two get their wrists blown off because they didn't follow the rules of having to go through the door.
Who does he need?
Get back.
It should be a fairly obvious assumption. Of course, the problem now, as it's being depicted, is if she has her hand holding just struggling to hold the knife away from her throat with her right hand, and he has to move his left hand off of holding her torso to register, she's in a decent position to try something, and maybe you shouldn't try something, and maybe this is how you end up getting stabbed, but I wouldn't be surprised if she does. She'll be free of his grasp, at least partially.
No! Farther! More than that! Go all the way back!
Unless the idea is that this scene, is, as it's being depicted, is not accurate now, and he's telling Clover and Ace and everyone else to get very far away from him.
Okay.
Wait, don't tell me. Clover's 4 and Ace's 1. Added to the 9th means 9. 4 plus 1 plus 9 is 14.
Very simplistic math puzzles here. I suppose it is worth mentioning that math puzzles are very popular in Japanese puzzles compared to like crossword puzzles, because Japanese lettering and symbols really wouldn't make sense in our crossword puzzles. That's why you have Sudoku being such a popular equivalent to crossword puzzles or jigsaw, crossword puzzles, not jigsaw puzzles. Jigsaw puzzles are pretty popular around the world, but also I would say the Japanese are fairly used to doing a lot of math homework, so math puzzles are somewhat popular in general because of that. But they are keeping it somewhat simple.
And a digital root of 14. 1 plus 4 is 5.
This feels slightly inspired by the powers or cube roots of prime numbers solution in the movie Cube, where 3 3-digit numbers, then you have to be like cube rooted to find out if it turns into a prime number or not, and they had to have this autistic genius character who could solve that simple that very complicated math problem that you wouldn't be able to really do in your head, because that's just way too big of a numbers. This feels inspired by that, but clearly it's been simplified to a system and a math problem that people can figure out, as long as you can add numbers properly.
In other words,
and since the calculator can't divide, you would not be able to do any kind of square roots or cube roots using the calculator. Not easily, at least. You could use the subtraction button over and over and over again.
Thank God you were all so cooperative. Now I can get out of this nightmare.
So off they go, and
Good. I don't need you anymore.
So what happens to Clover and Ace if they don't follow?
Here, she's all you.
Oops, I hit the A button again. It feels like the audio should play even if I hit A.
Okay. Have a good one, guys.
So this is where it comes down to, is Zero watching, and is Zero going to be the judge, jury, and executioner here? Or is this just an automated system, and will 9 guy here and Ace and Clover all just get their wrists blown off and die?
I'm going off ahead now. Well then,
And he seems to make the assumption that there won't be any other number doors.
Goodbye.
And the door closed on him, so it won't stay open forever.
Clover, are you all right?
And the blind guy should just be saying, what happened? What happened? Which is basically what he's saying.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Damn it!
Seems like Clover's fine.
Bastard!
So maybe we won't get a satisfactory just explosion sound of him getting blown up. And now we're getting a bunch of grunting sounds again. Too many of these.
Damn it!
You could see how animation in particular
Won't budge.
would have improved that section.
Do you hear something?
Like, what?
Like some sort of beeping.
Oddly, the game is not beeping right now.
You're right. I can hear it too.
What is it?
Why isn't it stopping? God damn it! You lied!
Lied?
So apparently, Zero talked to the 9 guy before, and they were he had extra information.
This wasn't supposed to happen! This is wrong!
Now, if this was like the first Saw movie, a slight spoiler for the first Saw movie, which you almost certainly should watch the first Saw movie before playing this game. The references are pretty obvious. There might be a revelation that guy, as scrawny as he looked, may have been in part involved in stalking the other people and deciding who was going to be put in the game, or helped in kidnapping the people.
This is wrong!
See.
What is happening in there?
Open the door, please! I'm begging you!
Is there a way to open 5 now? Let's see. And here you might have a solution where we actually need them. Let's think about this. Can we get to 5 with 3 different numbers? If we had 2 and then let's see, 5, that'd be 7, and so then we would need to end up in 14. So 2 and 5 and 7, yeah, would open the door. So we could open the door that way and then let number 9 back into this room. I doubt we're going to have that happen. I think he's just going to get blown up. But we could, this might be the true solution. Let him back because we need his number. Or it might be that he just blows up. We go through this hallway at some point in the future and we just grab his bracelet.
Help me! Please get me out of here! Get me out of here!
This would be an interesting split path decision on the flow. Do we decide to let him die or not? And at the end of the day, it doesn't seem like, if this is a split decision, it's going to affect too much. Although it might very well be that even though the flow of the story goes in this way, it may very well be a case of the ending being different. So we might get multiple endings that have nothing to do with the 5 boxes at the bottom of each of these paths. It might just have more to do with decisions at certain points when we are given decisions. Very much of this is not decisions. You can see it's just been novel, then a short escape room at the beginning, and then novel. That implies to me we're about to do another decision, and then novel with maybe an escape room in the middle there with then some more novel stuff. So this is mostly a visual novel game with a few puzzles added, not mostly a puzzle game with some story added. And I think I would generally want to play something with a little bit more interactivity and puzzles over just a story. But I do like this story. Like, it's different, it's unique, at least somewhat unique and somewhat different. It's not just having us do a standard visual novel where you're just trying to date somebody and figure out who is your romantic pick.
God damn it! Why?
So it says engaged at the moment. So before they said vacant, I believe, so there is no saving him.
Engaged? Is it because it's occupied?
Oh my god, there's no time left.
So I guess maybe his bracelet is counting down, like 60 seconds or so.
Listen, I was lied to. He lied to me. He put me in here.
So he's gonna confess now as he's about to die.
It was him. He killed me. It was him.
Who is him? Be more specific. Say a name. We don't get any bloody imagery, just a bomb. So now you get the reaction shots, so if any of these people aren't freaked out, then they might be the bad guy.
A beep?
A beep.
Did that thing just make that sound?
Yep.
The display changed from engaged to vacant.
Let's see if we can open it.
Okay.
Seems like we don't even have a choice.
My bracelet number.
Okay, so then we need 14. And this will probably be about all the gameplay we can even do in this recording.
But it won't open with one person. We need at least 2 more people.
Interesting. What to do? Ah, and they're keeping it simple for us. So, do I want to play the rest of this section, this next section, with Ace and Lotus, which would be 2 people that are trying to be leaders and probably will come into conflict quite a bit with me casting the deciding vote? Or do I want to have Snake and 7? Which character was 7? The mountain guy? So the blind guy and the violent guy. Or do I want Santa and June, which Santa is a little aggressive and not that smart, and June is a little passive and not that smart. So who's least likely to succeed without the player character, me, succeeding? Like, I think the solution here is wrong in the first place, because I think you want 5, which none of these combinations actually add up that way. So you couldn't add. Interesting. I don't know why pressing up brought me to that point. You would want to have 2 other characters. Ideally, yeah, now that we have 8 characters, 5 should leave 3 others. So you would want to pick the 3 that you have the best hope. So you would want to leave Lotus, potentially with Santa and 7, which would force them to go into room 9, which wouldn't work, would it? Because 8 plus 7 plus 3 would be 18, which would be a digital root of 9, which means they couldn't go through a door. So that wouldn't work. You could potentially have Lotus and Snake and Santa go together, which then would give you a 13, which would then take you through door 4, but wouldn't give you a combination to get to 9 at some point. And that's the sticking point here, is that you would need to find a group of 3 that could add up to 9 later if you actually need the number 9 to get through door number 9. But I guess I don't. So yeah, these two definitely I don't want to pick. So it comes down to, do we go with Santa or do we help the 2 dumbest people in the room, or the 2 most helpless people in the room? I think we help the 2 most helpless people in the room. I think Santa and June left with Ace and Lotus leaves you with 4 people that should be able to figure it out by themselves. Whereas if I were to take Ace and Lotus, then that leaves 4 people that very well wouldn't be able to figure it out for themselves. Or if I was to take Santa and June, then that leaves the danger of me having to hope that Ace and Lotus can get together, get along together enough to help Snake and 7. And I would hope Santa and June might temper Ace and Lotus's conflicting ideologies. Maybe, because they seem a little balanced here, they seem a little balanced here, where Snake and 7 don't feel like balanced. Like Snake is blind and not capable of really doing anything physical, and 7 is more violent and doesn't seem like he's that smart.
Snake, 7, you think you could give me a hand here?
So, yep, we basically made one decision in an hour and a half. The thing is that we're now stuck with going through door 5, and it seems like you always were going to go through door 5.
Digital root of 14, 1 plus 4 equals 5.
I don't need the game to really explain that to me, but
It should do it.
It's fine that it does.
Now we just need to pull the lever on the side. You guys ready? I'm gonna open it.
Now, it would be interesting if they just...
Oh my god.
If we just went in here, grabbed the bracelet, and then ran out before the doors closed on any of us.
Good God.
But that would be a violation of the rule also.
Whoa, that's pretty bad.
So they're stepping up the stakes by showing that the guy was blown up. Although we're not seeing any gory dismemberment. Again, a Japanese game. We're just seeing blood on the walls and a black screen.
He blew up.
Let's look at the adventure screen in comparison.
June, are you okay?
Well, apparently nobody went through the door, and that's okay with the rules. And so I guess you can decide that if you want to. It's just, as long as nobody goes through the door, you're okay. It seems like you're okay. As long as you don't go through the door, even if you were part of the solution also.
What the hell? Where'd this fever come from?
Yeah, and she's now glowing bright red. Like, she looks more like she's blushing or drunk than she looks like she just passed out of fright. Unless this is going to be a new revelation that we are actually poisoned also. So, let's see. Yeah, I don't know why we would really need this calculator. We're probably not going to get too many more files for a while. And flow-wise, we're still in the novel. We made one decision here. And let's see. Let's make another save file. And that's going to be it for this recording. So, interesting. Why did it pop up over like that? And we don't even have a map yet. Like, we're still very early into the game. It's rather slow. This was always the fear of covering visual novels, and while I want to support that industry, and there's lots and lots of fans, more than you would think, that are fans of visual novels, being a video game critic and trying to cover them is a daunting task, to say the least, because they are long. It is like reading a book with less words and, I suppose, less creativity, because you're getting imagery and audio aspects added to it instead of having to think of that stuff yourself. But yeah, we're slowly making progress. We haven't done anything wrong. It just takes forever. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.